3 real-life scary stories you'll wish you never heard. Chapter 1, The Porch Light That Wouldn't Turn Off. Hit subscribe right now if you dare, because after this you won't sleep with your lights off again. On Halloween night, my sister Mia and I were house-sitting for our aunt on Lantern Street, a quiet cul-de-sac with pumpkins, fake cobwebs, and plastic gravestones that glowed a soft blue. The neighborhood felt like a movie set. Fog from cheap machines drifted over trimmed lawns, and porch lights blinked with little bat silhouettes. We had a bowl of candy by the door, a cheesy horror marathon buzzing in the background, and a promise to keep the porch light on till midnight. At 9:17 p.m. the doorbell cam chimed. I checked my phone. A little kid in a sparkly witch hat waved at the camera and said, "Trick or treat." I opened the door, dropped candy into her orange bucket, and watched her skip back to a taller figure waiting at the curb. Parent, I thought. Normal. At 9:42 the bell chimed again, except the feed showed no one on the porch. The sensor must have caught a passing car. I shrugged it off. Mia muted the TV and smirked. Your spooky algorithm is broken. At 10:03 the bell chimed a third time. Still nobody on the porch. But this time I noticed something odd. The reflection in the glass of the storm door, a vague shape where the stairs were like a person standing just outside the camera's upper edge. I stepped onto the porch. Cold air. No one. The street was calm, the fog low and silver, fallen leaves scratching the concrete. When I went back in, the porch light flickered once and steadied. We locked the deadbolt. At 10:28, a new notification. Motion detected. The doorbell feed opened to a frozen frame of the porch, grainy, blue-tinted, the kind of color that makes everything look colder than it is. For a second I thought the camera had glitched. Then Mia leaned close. Play it again. I scrubbed back 5 seconds. The video showed the porch empty, then a smudge of black on the top edge like a shoulder leaned into the frame, then gone. If you blinked, you'd miss it. We turned on every light in the house. At 10:41 another motion alert. I opened the feed and paused. There at the very edge of the steps, stood a pumpkin we hadn't carved, one with a deep, uneven grin and triangle eyes that didn't match. It wasn't there before. I knew every decoration on that porch. Did you move a pumpkin? I asked Mia. She shook her head slowly, the way you shake your head when your stomach is already falling. The video had no person placing it, just one frame empty, the next frame not. We tried the porch light switch. It popped back to on even after I flicked it off twice. The third time, sparks arced behind the switch plate. Leave it, Mia whispered. Please leave it. At 11:02 someone knocked. Not the childish tap of trick-or-treaters. 3 knuckles, slow and polite. I looked at the feed. Empty porch. The pumpkin sat there, smiling wrong. Knock. 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 3 more, each heavier. The camera didn't capture a body. It captured only the sound, tiny audio spikes and a faint, breathy scrape, as if someone leaned close to the microphone but stood in a space the camera refused to show. I typed a message into the two-way audio. You're on camera. My voice hissed back out of the doorbell like steam. The porch light flared, buzzing so loud it drowned the TV. Our aunt's cat, Uma, slid under the sofa, tail puffed like a bottle brush. At 11:19 the doorbell chimed again, but this time the feed showed someone. A tall figure in a long black cloak stood at the bottom step, face smooth and blank, like a mask carved from candle wax. No eyes, no mouth, just the suggestion of features. The cloak edges fluttered as if underwater. I blinked and the figure tilted its head, considering the lens. The porch light stuttered, brightened, then burned so hot the camera image bloomed white. When it normalized, the figure was gone, but now the carved pumpkin sat on the welcome mat, pressed against the door. I called the non-emergency line. The operator said a car would swing by. We waited, breathing shallow. The house creaked in tiny, mean ways. Every time the HVAC kicked on, it sounded like a foot on the hallway boards. At 11:37 I heard whispering. Not in the house. In the doorbell audio, the faintest thread of a voice like a radio not tuned right. Light? Leave the light. Mia and I stared at each other. Do you hear that? She mouthed. I turned the volume up. The whisper softened into static. Headlights rolled across the living room curtains. Relief nearly buckled my knees. I checked the camera to watch the cruiser stop. The feed showed the porch, the street beyond, but the street was empty. No cruiser, no headlights, no engine echo. Inside, though, light swept across our walls like a search beam. I opened the door an inch. Cold air pushed in. The pumpkin was gone. The street was empty. No fog machines now. Just a thin mist and every other house dark. I shut the door and backed away. At 11:59 the porch light brightened on its own, blinding white, humming like a hive. The doorbell captured one last thing before midnight, a close-up of our reflections in the glass, except there were three figures. Mia. And something taller behind us, a head doubled in the glare, mask smooth, featureless. We spun around to nothing but the hallway mirror catching our shapes. The light clicked off at exactly 12 o'clock. The screen went black. And from the speaker, in a child's whisper we both heard clearly this time, came three soft words. Trick or treat. Chapter 2, The House Across the Field. If you're still here, hit that like button, because this story might make you think twice before looking out your window at night. It started on a night colder than it should have been. My friend Lucas and I had taken a weekend trip to his grandparents' old farmhouse in northern Maine, a place they'd abandoned years ago after strange noises in the fields. I thought he was joking. The house sat at the edge of a long dead cornfield. Beyond that field, across a rusted fence, stood another house. Smaller, darker, its roof sagging like it was tired of existing. Lucas called it the twin house because from a distance it looked like a shadow copy of his grandparents' place. The first night, the wind howled like an open throat. The farmhouse creaked every few minutes, the old wallpaper peeling in strips that fluttered when we passed. The power lines buzzed outside, but the lights inside flickered with no rhythm. We set up sleeping bags in the living room and decided to record a few videos for fun, haunted house vlog style. I hit record on my phone, panned across the window, and caught something that looked like a light blinking in the other house. One flash, then darkness. I thought maybe it was reflection. Old wiring, Lucas said. That place has been empty for decades. But just before we went to sleep, I noticed something. The light from the other house blinked again. And this time it blinked in pattern. Two short flashes. One long. Two short. I didn't know Morse code, but I knew that looked deliberate. The next morning, the frost on the window was shaped like handprints. Big, uneven ones. Lucas brushed it off with his sleeve and said, probably moisture. But he looked shaken. He said when his grandparents lived here, they'd sometimes wake up to muddy footprints inside, and when they cleaned them up, the ones outside the door were gone too. Like it walked out backward, he said. That afternoon we explored the field. The corn stalks were gray and papery, snapping under our boots. The air was still. No birds. No wind. The other house looked closer now, like it had moved slightly uphill. Its windows were boarded, but one on the upper right corner had been pried open, a black square like a mouth. The wood around it was fresh splintered. We found a trail of something on the ground. Not footprints exactly, more like drags as if someone had crawled through the frost on their elbows. The trail stopped at the fence between the two properties, and the wire there was bent outward. Maybe raccoons, Lucas muttered. That night, at 11:47, I woke up to the sound of the screen door creaking open. Then closed. Then open again. I shook Lucas. He sat up, wide-eyed. The sound stopped. We waited. The wind was dead. Then a faint glow appeared through the window, the same upper window of the other house, pulsing slow. I lifted my phone to zoom in, hand trembling. Through the grainy zoom, something moved past that open window. A pale outline. Then two more, shorter, like someone walking behind a curtain made of fog. Who's out there? I whispered. Lucas was already checking the door. It was still locked. Then the porch light outside flickered, not our porch light. The other house across the field had no power, yet that bulb blinked steady like it was breathing. We stayed awake till dawn, phone cameras recording the dark field just in case. The next morning the recordings were useless. The video showed static between 11:50 p.m. and 3 a.m. Every clip gone, replaced with frames of a single image, the two of us asleep in our bags, viewed from outside the window. I felt ice crawl under my skin. There was no tripod outside, no camera. Lucas said nothing. He grabbed his keys and said we should leave before dark. But as we drove down the dirt road, the car radio, which hadn't worked since last night, crackled on. A low voice hummed through static, rhythmic like it was reciting something. Lucas turned the dial, panic in his voice. It's just interference. But between the noise we both heard words. Come, across, the field. The signal faded. The farmhouse disappeared behind us. That night, back home, Lucas texted me a photo. It was a screenshot from his security camera. The motion alert showed his backyard, quiet, empty. But in the next frame there was a faint light blinking through the trees. Too short. One long. Too short. He wrote one last message under it. It found me. Chapter 3, The Last Passenger. If you've made it this far, make sure you're subscribed, because this story is one you'll think about every time you ride alone at night. It was close to midnight when I clocked out from my late shift driving for a rideshare app. Halloween night again, the streets slick with rain, orange lights glowing in puddles and the smell of wet leaves everywhere. Business had slowed down after the parties ended, and I was about to log off when a new request popped up. Pickup, Old Pine Road. Drop off, Raven Hill Cemetery. I laughed out loud. Someone was really leaning into the Halloween spirit. When I pulled up, there was no one on the curb. Just fog hanging thick over the cracked sidewalk and an old wooden bus stop sign that hadn't been used in years. The timer ticked down on my screen, waiting for passenger. Then, out of nowhere, the back door handle clicked. The car dipped like someone had just gotten in. But when I looked in the mirror, the seat behind me was empty. Hello? I said, half joking, half not. A faint cold breath rolled across the back of my neck from the rear vent, though the heater was still on. Then my dashboard screen glitched. The rider's name, which had been blank before, now read, E. Ward. The name didn't mean anything to me, but the system showed it as a confirmed pickup. Destination still, Raven Hill Cemetery. I put the car in drive. Maybe someone was pulling a prank, I thought. Maybe the fog was messing with the sensors. The roads out there wound through miles of woods, no lights except my beams cutting through the gray. My wipers squeaked on every pass. About 5 minutes in, the back seat started to creak, softly at first, then more as if leather shifted under weight. You still want to go to Raven Hill? I said, trying to sound calm. The radio turned itself on. A whisper of static, then an old tune, a woman's voice humming like a 1940s record, looping one verse, don't look back, or you'll never get home. I turned it off. It came back on immediately. The map glitched next. My route recalculated itself, rerouting through a smaller side road I'd never driven. I tapped the screen. Recenter. Nothing happened. The GPS arrow kept moving deeper into the woods. My phone screen dimmed on its own and showed a black background with faint text at the top. Almost there. A mile later, the fog parted enough to see the outline of the cemetery gates, tall, iron, half open. Beyond them, the headstones caught the light in wet glimmers. I stopped by the entrance. End of the ride, I said. This is as far as I'm going. The seat behind me exhaled. Not a human breath, deeper, colder, like air escaping an old tomb. My rearview mirror fogged from the inside. In the mist, a shape formed, a face pale and hollow-eyed, staring back from the back seat. It wasn't sitting, it was pressed against the mirror as if from the other side of the glass. My chest locked up. Then the passenger door opened on its own. Cold air flooded in. The dome light flickered, just enough to catch a silhouette stepping out of the car. Long coat, dripping wet, no reflection in the mirror. I heard the crunch of shoes on gravel heading toward the gates. And then silence. The app chimed cheerfully, trip complete. The fare appeared, $13.13. The passenger's name line was blank again. I floored the gas, heart pounding. By the time I reached the main road, the fog had cleared. The car felt lighter. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I checked the trip history. No record of the ride. The timestamp between 11:47 p.m. and 12:06 a.m. was missing entirely. 2 days later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched E. Ward Raven Hill Cemetery. The first result was an obituary, a woman named Eleanor Ward, buried there exactly 10 years ago on Halloween night. The photo in the article showed her wearing the same long coat I'd seen in my mirror. That night, when I turned the car on to go to work again, the radio came to life without me touching it. The same old humming tune filled the cabin. My dashboard screen glitched, then showed one word where the map should be. Thanks. The engine cut out by itself. Outside the window, in the reflection of the dark glass, a faint light blinked once, twice, long pause, twice again. Too short. One long. Too short. The same signal from the house across the field. And somewhere deep inside the static of the radio, a woman's whisper sang the final line. Don't look back.